Okay, so on this next video, I want to move away from the head for a little bit, and let's move on to a couple more body parts. Let's move on to the front legs and the back legs. The paws can be a little tricky, and once you understand them, one of the ways I like to talk about it is through comparative anatomy, through our own wrists. And when a dog is standing on its paws, they're basically, they have a wrist just like us, and so they're standing. The pad of a wolf. This is the pad here, and then the toe pads are here, 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 and here. So their fingers. Imagine your fingers kind of scrunched up, and that's how they're standing. And then they have a dew claw, which is on the side, which is basically our thumb. And then there's a pad there, and then they also have a pad right here. Okay, that comes back on the back of their paw. And so I can't do it, but imagine my hands, that's how a dog is sitting, okay? So if you imagine that, let's come back here. So if I let's draw it from, let's say, the inside, looking at the inside of the leg. Well, I'll just start from the top. You've got shoulder blade that happens underneath the skin. I'm not going to get a lot into the musculature. I'll get a little bit into it, but not a lot because there's so much fur and shagginess and everything that go over that. I don't think it's super necessary to understand all the musculature. I want you to understand why the arms move in the way they do, so I'll indicate some musculature, but I'm not going to get super detailed. So, thinking about the back up here, this goes into the rest of the wolf back here. There is a shoulder blade that sits here like that. And imagine a pivot point right here where the shoulder is. And that's going to come into the elbow. Basically the rest of the dog. The neck comes into here. Elbow is going to be back here. And here's the forearm, okay? This is actually the outside. I'm not drawing the inside. I'm drawing the outside. I'll draw the inside in just a minute. But imagine that coming down. You got flexor muscles that come down like so, underneath. It comes down to a wrist. Let me move this up just a bit. Comes down to a wrist right here. Okay? Now, just like our wrist, once you hit this wrist on the dog, and there's the little pad there for here. Once you hit that floppiness for the wrist, then you're going to hit your bones that go through your hand right here. And it's the same thing with the dog. So we get a little bit of an angle change here, like so. And it comes down here, and then we go into the next knuckle. Okay. Now I'm just going to draw the simple shape. That's basically the shape of the foot right there. If I draw all this down, coming down like so, this is muscle back here. There we go. Okay. Now, you're going to have a knuckle that comes down like this, claw, and a pad. Pad comes up like that. There's also the foot pad. There's a pad that comes up here, and a claw. Like so. And then if we draw a little bit 3/4, the other toe is right there, and then the other one would be on the other side over there. So I'm going to knock that back a little bit and just get a little more detail on there. So we'd have some fur coming down. Pad right there. Okay. Fur. Comes down like so. You'd have fur coming off. There's a thick toe pad that happens right there. Dogs cannot retract their claws like cats. Okay? So there's a knuckle right there. And then that comes out right there. Okay? Let's draw this one coming down. And then fur. So there's a toe pad right there. There's the other toe pad, or claw, toe pad right there. Okay. And then there's the other, just barely see the other toe over there. And we'd have a little bit of definition in here. This is generally smooth because the fur lays against it nicely right along here, but it all kind of grows off in this direction. Okay, and as it comes off, there's the elbow. As it comes off the back of the leg, it tends to be a bit furrier. There we go. Like that. Okay, so there's a front leg. Think of it as a front arm because it's the same anatomy as we have. Okay, here's your elbow, your forearm, you know, coming down, two bones coming down, the wrist right in there. And then we're going to come up. Now, if I were to continue this through, you'd have a tricep muscle that connects down in here, just like we have on the top of our arm, and another tricep muscle that connects up in here. And then your shoulder blade has the trapezius muscles, and then your latissimus muscle coming back this way. We'll get into all that later. Right now, I just want you to see this, the front leg. Okay, so there's that front leg coming off there. Think of the length. It's long and thin. You got a break at the wrist, and there's a bit of an angle change right there. There's a pivot point here, here, here. Okay, those are your pivot points. If I draw this in red, you've got your shoulder blade here. It comes down to a pivot point. There's the elbow, pivot point. There's your wrist, and then the wrist hangs down into the toes. Okay, so there's that. Let me color that in. All right, so let's go ahead and shrink that up. All right, so that's the front leg. Let's just get. I want to get a little bit more specific with. I want to get a little bit more specific with the paw itself, with the paws. Let's draw them. I'm going to draw the inside this time, and I'm going to go I'm going to go fairly loose. So once again, actually, let me do this. I'm going to draw it taking weight. We'll draw it taking weight, and then I'm going to get a little bit more detailed. We'll draw it taking weight, and then we'll draw it kind of limp. Okay, so here's the wrist. All right, we have a bone that comes down this way and comes into the dew claw, which is here. Okay, I'm going to draw very loose to start with, which comes down like so. And there's our general foot shape, okay? Just like that. That dew claw, there's the pad. And we're going to have toe that comes down here. Okay. One that comes up here, right into there. There's the foot pad. And then once again, there's the other toe hidden back behind those two toes, okay? So, think of this as coming down. There's the bones come down like that. They radiate out from the wrist right here. They radiate out. Then there's a knuckle, and they're bent this way. Then they step down, then you have the claws. They're bent this way, step down, you have the claws. Bent this way, step down, you have the claws. So they look like that. All right, now you want to make sure, actually I pulled this. You want to make sure that that's pulled back far enough. There we go. Like that, okay? So now if I tie that down, I'm going to have claw back or toe back there. This here is going to be fur coming off. Fur here, which goes into, there's that thumb. It's basically his thumb. Like that. Fur coming down. There's that claw. And knuckle, and that comes back like that. And don't be afraid to kind of give them kind of nice fat toe pads. Kind of fat like that. Once again, here's this one coming back. And nice fat toe pads. Okay, same thing here. I'm going to pull these claws together really tight. Like so. Pull that out here like this. There you go, like that. Okay, so you got a pad there, and these shapes here. If you think about the foot from the front, let's put that over there. If you think about the foot from the front, let's look at it this way. Comes down. Actually, I'm going to draw that a little bigger. Comes down to the wrist. Okay. You're going to have that dew claw that's going to be a little bit hidden in there, back behind. Remember, you got all these bones that radiate out. But then look at this. You can flatten this right out. Look at this shape I'm creating. It's almost like a Hershey's Kiss. Here's a Hershey's Kiss, and take the top off. Okay? So it's like that. We'll draw a line right down the middle. Okay? Right down the middle, and you're going to get the knuckle, and then it flares out for the pad. Knuckle, and it flares out for the pad. And then here, boy, you can hear that thunder. Flares out, flares out like so. All right? Then when it comes time to to indicate where the pads are, the pads basically come up like that. And then there's a pad here and a pad there. Okay? And then when you look at the nails there and there, see how they're close to the middle? Close to the middle, and then they'll kind of hook down, and here and here. Okay, so there's your, and then once again, there's that thumb or dew claw right in there. Okay, so if I lighten that up, want to tie that one down as well. Comes down. Comes around like so. And there's a claw. Comes down like that. Okay. Fur. Claw. All right. And then those bones come up through the hand, through the paw. See, I don't even distinguish it different than a hand. I just think of it as a dog version of a hand. And you can kind of get a little bit organic in how you portray everything in here. There you go, just like that. Okay? And that's going to be dark. Those are those pads. Okay? It flares out because of all the fleshiness there. The dog needs those pads to protect its feet when it's running through over the ground and through the snow and all of that. There's that wrist. There you go, like that. Notice the kind of the twist, the rhythm that I have for that foot. That's the front. Okay. Now those paws, their paws can spread out fairly well too. Like let's draw another one. If you have, say that wrist comes down. And we're looking down on it a little bit more. You could have, see what I'm doing? I like to draw those toes in and then think of the step back. But they'll have like a little webbed, like almost like the webbing between our fingers, the skin between our fingers. A wolf will have that. They can spread their toes out pretty good. See there? They can spread that out. See how quickly, think about this step down for the shape. There's the claw and the toe. Think about that shape for your toes. So you can draw fairly quickly. This is how I like to draw, and then I can always go back in, tie them down, make them look pretty. But you can spread those toes out pretty good. If we draw it even more, kind of looking at it from the front. I could get in here. You can even show the webbing, down through there, even between the big toes. It's possible for, them to really spread their toes out. This is very quickly drawn, but even, if you know where the different rhythms go, you can draw very quickly and still draw accurately, which is what I'm doing here. You get a little shading between the toes. But you can see, I'll get those pads colored in. You can get something that looks really interesting. Let me lighten that up and kind of tie those down a little bit. So if I tie this down, fur coming off that wrist, coming down, there's the pad. Okay, it comes back, a little bit of, oops, I'm going to go the other way with that. There we go. And once again, lots of fur getting into that pad a little bit. There. So you can see, get those rhythms. Think about the 4 digits and thumb on your own hand, and you'll get a handle on what a dog has, because we all have the same parts. They're just proportioned differently, and we use them differently. A dog needs their hands to walk with, right? And so they're going to be proportioned a little bit different. But there you go. So those like that, and like this, fur, lots of fur. It's raining pretty good here, boy. Getting some serious rain here in Florida. You can see how quickly I'm not laboring it. You can draw really accurately, thinking about that anatomy. Just think about that anatomy. There's that wrist, right? There's that dew claw coming in. There's the pad underneath. All of that. All right. All right, so how about what happens when the dog lifts his paw, okay? When it goes a little bit limp. Well, you got notice how I'm gonna create 2 straights right here. And then this comes down to that little pad right there. Comes down to right here, this line. And then this goes into the dew claw. Think about your own forearm. This is like the fatty part of your thumb. Okay? And then this comes down. And then here's the pad. There's a pad. See this general shape? There's the general shape. It almost looks like a cartoon paw, right? Well, that's because in animation we study the real thing and then we break it down. We break everything down into their basic shapes. And then there's a claw, 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 claw. And then there's the other toe on the other side. Okay? So if I draw the foot pads or the toe pads underneath, you'd end up with something like that. I'm just going to quickly sketch that fur coming off the back. So once again, if we tie this down, you got that wrist. The break is up here. Think about your own wrist. You got fur that comes off of here and comes into the dew claw. Fur. And you get into the foot pad. And then here we've got the actual toe pad right under here coming in. Fur coming back like that. Same thing here. There's a toe pad. There's the other toe and another toe, claw. Okay. And then the other toe back there. This is all generally really straight. All right, so you get your curves in here. Like that. Okay. Let's do another one. What happens if those feet are pushed towards you? You know, you're gonna, this is coming towards us. What's going to happen? We're going to get this kind of shape. We're going to get the dew claw right in there. And then this is going to push out like this. If they're pushing towards us like this, then you're going to get a toe, and a toe, and a toe, and a toe, and then part of the underpad right there. And this comes back, and that comes back. You see there? And we won't see the other one. And then we get claw, a claw, a claw, and a claw sticking out there, and a claw sticking out there. You see that? See how quickly, once you understand that general shape, you can see how quickly you can get that. And I'm also thinking about the foreshortening. I'm looking at that wrist shape. You know, I should have a little bit of a bulge right there coming into here. Everything, I want those toes to come around. Okay. Everything works back like that. But toe, 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 and then there's the foot pad. Okay? So once again, let me see, I'm going to tie that one down. So you can see I can rough something in very quickly like this. And then we can come in and actually spend a little time and tie it down. Work on the details like fur. Get those claws just right. Like that. Because wolves are going to have a lot of fur coming off of their toes. They got to keep those suckers warm, right? So there's that. And notice how I pull those toes out. See the pads flare out. That's important for getting the right shape on those feet. You don't want to disregard the feet. You want them to look right. You know, it's just like, you know, sitting and learning how to draw human hands. You know, human hands have some complexity to them. Well, so do wolf hands. Dog hands. So there's that right there. I'm going to get, there we go. Get that extra pad in there looking right. There, okay. There's that fur coming off. So you can see We can change the angles. We can change, as long as we understand those basic components. You got that wrist with the radiating bones coming down for the fingers, and then the kind of the crinkled up fingers. That's the way I always think of it. They're crinkled up, and the way those toe pads work. If you look at the bottom of a wolf's foot, let me just move this over here. If we look at the bottom of a wolf's foot, I'm sure we've all seen it, but I just want to explain it a little bit. I'm going to show it just from a slightly 3/4 angle. But you got this part right here, okay? This part, that is this right here, okay? And then we're going to draw the fingers. And the fingers, we've got one here for a toe pad. Here. Here. And then one back in here. Okay? And it's going to curve up just a little bit. And then what you've got, let me color this in right here. Excuse me. There we go. So there's that. Then you've got your dew claw, which is right about in here. There's your toe pad for that. Okay, so if I just kind of connect it all, you're going to have this looking like this, coming into the, and then this is all kind of, I'm just basically drawing the outline of where the fur would be. Okay, and then you're also going to have right about here another pad. That's the back of the hand. Think of that as the back of the hand. That's right about where we flare out for our wrist. Okay, so there's your underside, and then you've got the claws that stick out like that. There you go, like that. There's your patterning. And there's lots of fur. Okay, so this, if we look at it from behind, this will come down, and you're going to have your dew claw right there. There's your pad underneath there. And a toe. Okay. So that's what the foot looks like from behind. Okay, so there's your feet. Let's draw a hind leg real quick. All right, so let's go with the back leg now. So I'm just going to draw very general, very quick. Here's the pelvis. You know, here's the back of the dog. Comes down. Okay. And generally it comes down like so. We have the knee right here. And you generally have a straight and a curve right in here. The ankle, the distance from the ankle to the ground, like so, that distance is going to be short. Make sure you don't make it too long. That's a key. Actually, I bent that too much too. Okay. There we go. So you'll end up with something like this. Very simple shapes. Fur coming off of here. But I like to think of it as basically here, there's going to be the hip. That's going to connect to the knee here, which is going to go to the ankle. That's his ankle. It's like he's, if it's a person, if it was a person, here's the thigh. Here's the butt and the thigh. There's their knee, calf. Okay? And it would be, and there's their heel. And then their foot, like that. That's what this is, you know, here's the knee, here's the knee. There's the hip. Here's the hip, comes down, ankle down to the toes. It's the same thing here, ankle down to the toes. That's how a dog is standing. That's how dogs stand. And a big bushy tail. Okay? So I'm going to lighten that up just so we can draw this a little better. So once again, I'm going to keep this all fairly, not too shaggy, but there's a bit that comes off of the back right here. This is going to be really shaggy. There's lots of muscle here. Think of this as the calf, because it is the calf. I'm going to shrink that up just a little bit. I want to get that leg just a little more slender. There's an ankle right here and the tendon. There's that tendon, the Achilles tendon comes back like that. Fur, lots of fur coming off the back, just like we did on the front legs. There's skin, basically, that comes up here, but this muscle comes all the way up, and then your knee, the knee of the dog is down here. Okay? Where you get a nice, smooth, kind of round transition. Notice the roundness and the straights here. You know, I'm playing those round against straights right there. Okay? And then the toe, just like we did on the front, but they're smaller. You're going to have that step down kind of feel with your pads. Okay, there's no dew claws, there's no extra claws in the back. The back feet are very simple. Okay, might have a bit of a line coming through here. That's where the muscle is. There's muscle attachments there coming off that femur. And you'll have, because of the joint, you'll have a little definition in here, like so. There's that back leg. Now, some people have, they get into a little bit of trouble when they try to bend that leg, bend the legs. What happens when they try to bend the leg? And they don't quite know what to do with it. And one thing that I learned, if you look at this line here, let me change the color. If you look at this line here and this line here, notice that they're fairly parallel. It's not always that way in nature, but I try to keep that for myself as a rule. That way, if I want to go like this and pick the knee up and then have this come back here, I keep these two lines parallel, and now I've got something. So watch, if I come in here and draw over the top of that, now what I've got is a thigh. And that muscle is going to be bunched up. And we're going to come down into the knee, right? There's that knee. Ankle. And the paw is going to come down a little bit. And we're going to get a bunch of, you know, the butt, basically, coming down. And there's the foot. So you can see, by keeping these parallel, you can basically set it up like an accordion. And then it's just, you know, there's a paw, or toe, toe, toe. There's the feet, like so, and the ankle. So that's what I think about when I'm drawing a dog's leg. And then same thing, you know, if you want to stretch it way out, we can do the same thing. We go from here, say we stretch it down here, like that, okay? I'm hyperextending it, but let's do this. Now, I'm going to pull this leg. Here's the knee. Right down into the foot, right? Right down into the foot. So you can straighten that leg by thinking about these lines. Okay, see that? There's the knee there, calf muscle, ankle, right there, and then the pads. All right, so there's that. You can, and there's a nice range of motion that you can get between the two of those. But think about those connecting points, your hip, your knee, your ankle, your toes. And then you work that like an accordion. Basically, that's what you do. Let's look at it from a different angle. You know, a lot of times if you're drawing a wolf, you're going to draw the body. Let's get the right color here. You're going to draw, you know, there's the head and the neck. Head's going to be bigger. Body right here. With the feet. Front feet. Maybe there's a front foot there. And then the body is coming underneath. Now I'm going very scribbly, but I won't on those back feet. Because what do you do with this angle? Well, generally you can get a nice straight right here. And then you let the back, the outside right here, actually that comes out like that. You're going to have your knee. So think of it this way. I'm going to come up and connect up in here. Okay. This is actually going to overlap. And then we'll have our tail right there. But there's our knee. Muscle. Comes down. There's an ankle right here. And then those toes. These are very simple. And the other thing too is the ankles on the back feet tend to come together. So when you're looking at the other foot, it's going to look like this. Sort of like that, okay? So they come together in that way. Let's look at another one. If we draw it from behind, okay? Tail's going to come down. Moles, as we know, have a pretty bushy tail. And what I'm going to do here, I just want to show a little bit of, I always try to draw, it's not really the butt, but it's kind of the glutamus muscle with the fur over the top of it. And the top of the pelvis is going to come up this way. Here's your hip, so that's going to be the start of your leg, right? And then we get to the knee. What's happening? We're coming back. Notice how I'm overlapping some of my shapes. So then that's going to come down like so and create these shapes like this. And then there's the ankle right there. Okay? And then if we were to get rid of the tail for a second, so we'd have this coming down like this, the other leg coming around. But watch what happens, because that knee is slightly pushed out. We're going to get a shape that comes down like this. Notice how straight this gets on the inside. We're going to come down like this. We got the calf muscle out for the ankles. There's a tendon right there. And then it flares back out for the foot. Okay? But see how straight, basically that is? Then you get your definition there. Okay? And if we draw this, you'd end up in the shoulder blades, and you could notice how I'm just overlapping shapes. And then if we get up to the ears, and then all of a sudden you're drawing a wolf. Here's the belly, and the front legs come underneath. And look at that. All of a sudden you've got a wolf in about 2 seconds. Okay? But what I really want you to see is this. This shape, overlap those heels, the bone, that brown part. There you go. And, I want you to remember this, this straight through here. Okay? So I'm going to tie that down. Actually, if we draw the tail down, you'll see that it'll cover it up. But sometimes, the tail might be out like this. And you've got to draw that. You've got to figure out, okay, how do I draw that leg from that weird angle? And so if we tie that down, once again, notice how I'm always drawing loose first. There's the top of that pelvis into the hip. There's a knee there. Now the knee is kind of around the other side, so I'm trying to simplify that. And then there's fur that comes off of here, right down into the calf, into that Achilles tendon, the heel bone. Okay. The ankle. There, like so. And now, and I like to think about those muscle shapes right there. So let's do the same thing here. There's a nice strong muscle coming out, fairly straight on the inside. We get to the break for the calf muscle. There's the ankle, Achilles tendon coming down like this. Actually, probably could get even thinner. Like so. And it flares out for the feet. Like that. And once again, lots of fur coming up and around. But think about those are your dog legs. That's a very typical dog leg. We'll just color in the back there to see, you can see how that works. Okay? So that's the back end. That's what that's what that looks like. So you can see how that looks. And actually too, if you think about the silhouette of this, that's how it's going to look from the front as well. Just reverse it. But we've got our back legs, the contraction over here, the way that works. Okay, so there you have it. I've just kind of rearranged everything for it all to look a little more pleasing. But those are wolf feet, wolf legs. Once you get the handle on how those toes work, and you can spread them, especially with the front feet, you can have a lot of fun. Imagine your own fingers, the dexterity that you have with your own fingers compared to your toes. And that's basically what it's like with a wolf. You can move their front toes around a little bit more than you can their back toes. They've got a little bit more going on there. But anyway, so that's wolf feet and legs, and that I really enjoyed. There's something really satisfying about drawing. It's like drawing human hands. When you get them right, they feel good, and they're fun to draw. But anyway, let's move on from here, and we'll move on to the next body part.